It's 2025 and Grand Theft Auto 6 still isn't out. Sorry to immediately start this video with bad news, but hey, is it still bad news if it's been the same news for years now? Well, maybe, but until not that long ago, we used to spend the long years between GTA games playing other games that looked like GTA, played like GTA, and most importantly, filled that GTA-shaped hole in our lives until the next actual GTA game arrived. For a very long time, two things were true. You didn't have to wait 12 years between Grand Theft Auto sequels, and even when the wait did feel long, you had a bunch of Grand Theft Auto clones to play from other game studios that weren't Rockstar games.
Feels like the game has changed.
Those glory days are over, actual GTA sequels take forever to get made, and very few studios are making GTA clones to fill the gaps. So, where did all the GTA clones go? Why did nearly every company stop making them? Which were the best ones, and what does the future of GTA clones look like? Let's talk about the life, death, and hopeful future of GTA clones, all while reminiscing about our favorite ones along the way. After all, it looks like we've got plenty of time to kill until the actual Grand Theft Auto 6 gets here, so grab a drink or a snack and let's steal a car and illegally drive down GTA clone memory lane together while the cops chase us. Okay, so before we get cooking, let's define some criteria. What makes GTA GTA and what makes a GTA clone a GTA clone?
Yep, that's the place.
Well, GTA and by proxy a GTA clone are modern open-world, third-person crime games where you interact with vehicles and pedestrians in ways that would get you jailed in real life. Pretty straightforward stuff. You steal cars, start fights, shoot guns, blow things up, piss off the cops, and generally have a fun, chaotic time in an urban environment that vaguely or strongly resembles a city that exists in real life. Rockstar's GTA games have you playing straight-up criminal or occasionally morally gray characters dragged into the criminal lifestyle, while several of the more notable GTA clones also do this, or they have you playing as a good guy or cop who also ends up doing a bunch of crimes anyway, just with less repercussions, because cops.
Hey, Dick, I give the music a 3. No lyrics and you can't dance to it.
Either way, we don't really get new GTA clones anymore. You might not have noticed this slow, prolonged loss of an entire genre of video games because we still get a million other open world games. We've even seen game franchises that were previously linear or level-based make the jump to open world. There's no shortage of seemingly endless open world games out there, most of them filled to the brim with things to do, places to explore, and millions of tiny cluttered map icons to check off simply because you feel like you have to. And you do. And yes, some of these modern open world checklist games start to border on tedious, but the main selling point of them is getting to visit an exciting new place and being allowed to explore and possibly cause mayhem however you see fit. But if we're going to talk about GTA clones, we need to start with the biggest one that lived, died, lived, and then died again. Folks, let's talk about Saints Row.
All right, yeah!
Yeah!
Fuck yeah! Who the fuck's this guy?
Saints Row was the closest thing that fans of GTA could repeatedly count on when it came to playing a series of GTA-style games that weren't developed by Rockstar themselves. The first Saints Row game began development in 2003, hot on the heels of GTA 3 and Vice City, but a year before San Andreas would cap off Rockstar's PS2-era crime spree.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Side note, but totally related note, holy shit, we used to get 3 whole new GTA games in 3 years? What? We had it so good, we didn't even know it. GTA 3 and Vice City were clearly massive commercial and critical hits, and because it didn't take 7 years or more to react to a popular trend in the games industry at the time, you know, like now with Concord.
Trust me, we're professionals. We'll stick to the plan. We can do this. And then, that.
Other publishers took notice and decided that making an open-world violent and chaotic crime game set in a modern city was the way to go. Some folks at Volition Studios, largely known at the time for developing the successful Red Faction game series, started work on a first-person, air quotes, gang simulator that aimed to let players do all sorts of heinous criminal activity from the comforts of their own video game console. The game was greenlit, became Saints Row, and sold exceptionally well out the gate when it launched in 2006. A real bat out of hell, or gat out of hell as the series would go on to say, but more on that one in a sec. Now, it's easy to assume that any GTA clone would have been a hit during this era. GTA as a series had existed for years, but GTA 3 reinvented the franchise, changing it from a top-down game to a true 3D open-world game, and players ate up every subsequent sequel and expansion they were offered and continue to today.
I'm getting kinda bored of killing you, prick!
GTA Online is basically an infinite money cheat for Rockstar after all, but Saints Row brought a bunch of significant additions to the formula, most notably a player-created character. The Rockstar-developed GTA games largely featured and continue to feature bespoke, curated protagonists with a defined look and personality, resulting in warped, maniacal, and iconic anti-heroes like Tommy Vercetti, a character so perfectly crafted for his world that none other than legendary Goodfellas actor Ray Liotta himself brought him to life.
You have my personal assurance that I'm gonna get you your money back, and the drugs, and I'm gonna mail you the dicks of those responsible.
Hey, I already know that.
Rest in peace, Ray Liotta, and I can't believe Cocaine Bear was one of your last movies. Actually, yes, of course I can. GTA 3's main character, Claude, was decidedly less mouthy. He's literally mute the whole time, but his look and attitude still delivered a memorable character that players had no hand in making themselves, leaving their creative efforts instead for the car wrecks and carnage they could cause in the city around them. So, letting players instead customize their own character with intricate detail, like right down to the level of cheek fat that you could give them, was a very risky move, but it also immediately helped set Saints Row apart as its own unique thing and went on to become a series staple. In fact, Rockstar themselves finally introduced their own custom character option in GTA Online. That's not to say that Saints Row didn't also manage to create their own iconic original characters, because they definitely did, with Johnny Gat, voiced by the always awesome and prolific Lost star Daniel Day Kim, who immediately became a fan favorite after being introduced in the first game and appearing in several more games afterwards.
Oh, you heard the cocky son of a bitch. Let's roll.
Several more games is exactly what the Saints Row series ended up getting, to various degrees of success and fan reception. You see, as the Saints Row series began to evolve and expand with sequels like Saints Row 2, Saints Row the Third, and Saints Row 4, along with its standalone expansion, Gat Outta Hell, there it is, the franchise started to lean away from being gritty and grounded and became more ridiculous and over the top.
Fuck this.
While 2008's Grand Theft Auto 4 introduced Nico Bellic, a down-on-his-luck immigrant navigating the rough and grimy sepia-toned streets of a fictional take on NYC, 2011's Saints Row the Third made the Saints gang media moguls in charge of a flashy and neon-purple empire where they used weapons like fart grenades and dildo bats, and they were even rewarded for throwing themselves into traffic so they could ragdoll into the sky for comic relief and money. The third Saints Row game was clearly and intentionally going for a sillier, crazier, and more over-the-top look and feel from not only the GTA games that were successful at the time, but also the two Saints Row games that preceded it, and to this day, the Saints Row fanbase has been split on this direction. The series somehow continued to ramp up the borderline incoherent insanity 2 years later with Saints Row 4, a game that involved aliens, superpowered protagonists, and a bunch of other nonsensical shit that mainline GTA games would mostly relegate to cheat codes and Easter eggs. Saints Row 4 was once again a huge hit for Volition, selling 1 million copies in its first week alone. 2 years later, in 2015, which was also 2 years after Grand Theft Auto 5 released, for the first of what feels like half a dozen times if you're keeping score, the Saints Row 4 spin-off Saints Row Gat Outta Hell launched, letting players grow wings to literally fly around hell. Rockstar and Volition were very clearly going in two very different directions at the same time, and while the Saints Row franchise began as a humble GTA clone, it was now confidently and assuredly its own distinct, completely insane thing. Gat Outta Hell reviews and reception were all over the place, and the series had clearly lost its focus. 2 years later, Volition even created another Saints Row spin-off called Agents of Mayhem, a game that mostly looked and played kind of like a Saints Row game and was set in the world of Saints Row but didn't have Saints Row in the title. Unsurprisingly, Agents of Mayhem didn't perform well by any metric, and the Saints Row franchise and much of Volition was taken down with it. And finally, and yes, we do have to talk about it, Saints Row was somehow resurrected in 2022. I say somehow as in it seemed miraculous that this series was even given another shot, but Saints Row 2022 was funded by Embracer Group, a Swedish video game publisher and investor firm hell-bent on buying up studios everywhere, greenlighting games, promising the world, only to slowly gut them, cancel them, and move on like nothing ever happened. A rebooted Saints Row was revealed, produced, and released to the excitement and anticipation of, well, not that many people. Each trailer leading up to the launch was met with endless downvotes from fans, mostly because it didn't really look like a Saints Row game. It toned down the comical craziness of the previous installments and promised a more grounded return to form for the gang, but it managed to neither entice long-term Saints Row fans to return or attract new gamers away from the more refined open-world games, and the result was a product that nobody really wanted. What's worse, the 2022 Saints Row reboot launched riddled with technical issues, bugs, and glitches, which actively made the shallow open-world sandbox gameplay worse, punishing everyone who even attempted to give the game a fair shot, despite the numerous negative reviews, including our own at IGN, which called it an uninspired brand of sandbox fun that's unlikely to wow anybody who's played a Saints Row game before, much less a GTA game. Damn. At some points in history, you could argue that the Saints Row games were able to match and even occasionally eclipse many elements in the proper GTA games, and they undeniably went on to have an identity of their own, even if that wasn't exactly what fans of the first two games wanted. But by 2022, Rockstar had set the bar so high for what an actual GTA game should look and play like that a lackluster, glitchy, and largely sandless sandbox game was just not going to cut it. Embracer Group shut down Volition for good, killing off the Saints Row franchise and the studio responsible for creating it. So there lies Saints Row, the longest running GTA clone franchise.
Hey, guys.
Now, it's tough to say if we'll ever see another Saints Row game again. Embracer seemingly owns the IP still, but with GTA 6 on the horizon and a failed Saints Row game in the rearview, it seems incredibly unlikely that we'll get another reboot anytime soon. But hey, I think Saints Row will always have a place in my heart and will always deserve another shot someday. And with Rockstar taking 12 years or more to make a new GTA game these days, there's plenty of time between GTA 6 and the probably 2037 release of GTA 7 for the Saints Row franchise to maybe, just maybe, rise from the ashes like a bat out of hell. Just not a gat out of hell. Or hey, maybe sometimes we should just let sleeping dogs lie. Hey, wait, did somebody say sleeping dogs?
It seems that the evidence against you has failed to appear. How do you explain that? You must be a very dangerous man, Wei Shen.
Ah yes, Sleeping Dogs. This game rules. Sleeping Dogs was the kind of absolutely bona fide classic GTA clone that took everything that made the GTA games great, dropped them into a setting the GTA games have never bothered to visit, and completely totally deserved to become a hit franchise for decades instead of a lonely one-off game that never got a sequel. Okay, well, it sort of got a sequel. It's not great. More on that in a sec.
Fuck off and grow up.
Sleeping Dogs launched in 2012 to critical praise and solid sales, and despite being published by Square Enix, a company that is almost definitely working on a Final Fantasy game with the number 17 in the title right now, we still don't have a Sleeping Dogs 2 and probably never will. They can count to 17, but they can't count to 2. Like, what the fuck? And that sucks, because Sleeping Dogs was a genuinely, really smart take on the GTA format. Not just because of modern-day Hong Kong was a new and interesting place to set an open-world crime game, but because it brought some seriously genius innovations to this style of gameplay with it, namely in the combat department, where an emphasis on melee and using objects scattered around the world as weapons to smash your opponent's faces in was highly encouraged. You could slam a car door into your enemy's head, beat him into oblivion with a payphone on the street, or just combo the hell out of them with a flurry of kicks and punches. Your average actual GTA game is awesome because, you get melee options and a healthy arsenal of heavy-duty weaponry, but it doesn't let you beat up a guy the way Sleeping Dogs lets you do it. So yes, it completely sucks that we only got one Sleeping Dogs game. Okay, so we sort of got a Sleeping Dogs sequel called Triad Wars, an incredibly short-lived 2015 closed beta online multiplayer Sleeping Dogs spin-off that ran on the same engine, used a bunch of the same assets, clearly as both a way to save new money and recoup a bunch of the old money that was already spent developing Sleeping Dogs, which was a very expensive game to make. They added some features that literally nobody wanted, like base building, purchasing fake in-game gold with real money from real life. Like a sleeping dog got a mobile game-shaped tapeworm. The closed beta was shut down in 2016 around the time Rockstar's own GTA Online had been printing cash for years already, so maybe the concept of give a GTA clone its own GTA Online clone was a good idea to somebody somewhere at some executive level and approximately zero consumers, besides the one guy who's definitely gonna leave a comment on this video saying, "Hey, what about me? I love Triad Wars." No, you didn't. But wait, we're not sending this dog to heaven just yet, because recently, Shang-Chi actor Simu Liu announced that he's producing and starring in a Sleeping Dogs movie, which could theoretically kick the franchise in the ass, make it popular again, and give us a new game someday. That's awesome news, and I need us all to be optimistic that this plan comes together. Until then, though, that dog is asleep. And what's even wilder about the Sleeping Dogs franchise, taking the long nap that it is that it technically took another GTA clone franchise to dog heaven with it when it died. See, Sleeping Sleeping Dogs actually began as a sequel to the 2005 video game True Crime New York City, which itself was a sequel to the 2003 video game True Crime Streets of LA. Both true crime games were pretty solid GTA clones in their own right, and since they let you play as a cop who could do as much or as little crime as the player wanted, they also added an interesting morality meter known as good cop, bad cop. True Crime Streets of LA managed to somehow pull in an insanely stacked voice cast that included people like Christopher Walken, Ron Perlman, Michael Madsen, and Michelle Rodriguez, and despite being a mostly grounded game based on real-life Los Angeles, also managed to feature some wild fantasy elements that we've never seen in real life, such as fighting a mystical dragon in the sewers, and corrupt police officers being penalized for their crimes. Fantasy stuff. Then in the slightly more grounded sequel, True Crime New York City, even more celebrities showed up, like Mickey Rourke, Lawrence Fishburne, and Christopher Walken again somehow. Being set in New York, it also did a bunch of stuff that people in True Crime LA could never comprehend, like hot dog carts and functional public transportation. Otherwise, there just wasn't much of an identity to this game overall, and True Crime New York was supposed to set up a sequel that never happened, but still underwent a lengthy and expensive development process, which ultimately led to the entirely new and different game we now know as Sleeping Dogs.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm sort of impressed too.
Good news on that trail of death is that Sleeping Dogs still absolutely kicks ass. It's totally playable on most modern consoles and PC as of right now. In fact, it still looks really good, and there's a great mod community making cool stuff for it. If for some reason you've never played it, if you want to play through it, on the infinite wait for the next GTA game, it's probably the best GTA clone ever made. I really truly hope it gets a sequel someday, and it's very funny it indirectly gave us True Crime New York City, a game that finally put Christopher Walken and Lawrence Fishburne together for the first time since the gritty 1990 classic crime movie King of New York, a movie I love dearly. But look, sometimes you need to borrow ideas from movies to make video games. The people that make GTA games take ideas from classic crime movies all the time. But what happens when you want to make a GTA-inspired video game, but all the GTA games already took all the great ideas from all the classic crime movies? Well, you make a video game that's a legally licensed spin-off of a classic crime movie, you dummy.
Ah, look at this bullshit. Who deserves to be on TV? Me! That's who!
In retrospect, it is absolutely insane that the year 2006 gave us not one but two open-world GTA clones based on R-rated gangster movies that hadn't been in theaters in decades. The Godfather and Scarface, The World Is Yours.
This is my town, my world, George, and nobody's gonna take it away from me.
Let's start with The Godfather, a game I was legally required to purchase as the son of an Italian-American immigrant who grew up in New Jersey. The Godfather stars a new fake Italian guy who sounds like one of my uncles named Aldo Trapani, who works his way up to the Corleone family crime syndicate from the hit trilogy of films. Now, I specifically and very hilariously played the Wii version of this game known as the Godfather Blackhand Edition, which lets you use motion controls to strangle Italians and literally throw punches around to extort local businesses out of their profits so you could make some dirty mob money. Who doesn't want that? I had a ton of fun with this game, even though the entire concept of pretending there was some character hanging out in the background of a bunch of scenes from the classic film The Godfather who was never actually there was utterly ridiculous. Driving around, taking down gangsters with a Tommy gun and being able to enter tons of buildings and stores made for a really awesome open world experience. Now, it got a sequel in 2009, aptly titled The Godfather Part 2, but it was a significantly worse game, so the franchise went to sleep with the fishes for good afterwards. Now, I'm going to take this moment to shout out 2002's The Getaway, a GTA clone on PS2 that wasn't directly tied into a gangster movie, but it was inspired by a bunch of them, specifically the 2000 Guy Ritchie London crime comedy movie Snatch. The Getaway also got a sequel in 2004 and a spin-off in 2006, but otherwise the franchise is long gone these days. Rest in peace. Meanwhile, Scarface The World Is Yours released a few months after the first Godfather game, but instead of letting you play as Scarface's non-canonical cousin, it pitched something even weirder. Imagine if, instead of dying at the end of Scarface, like Scarface does in the movie Scarface, Scarface instead survives Scarface and sets out to get revenge on everyone who tried to kill him in Scarface. Yes, that's the actual plot of Scarface: The World Is Yours, a video game sequel that's also a reboot, forcing me to use the word rebootquel. Ugh, I just feel gross. For the first time since Halloween, the movie series, and not the holiday, Rockstar's own Grand Theft Auto Vice City lifted themes and settings heavily from the 1983 Brian De Palma and Al Pacino cocaine classic, so it was a very full circle moment to see Scarface become a GTA clone of its own. Lesson 1, don't underestimate the other guy's greed. Lesson 2, don't get high on your own supply. Scarface is a totally solid GTA clone with some very silly additions, most notably a balls meter that fills up depending on certain actions that the now very much alive Tony Montana performs in the world. Weirdly enough, Scarface also got ported to Wii, allowing Wii bowling grandmothers at nursing homes everywhere to wield a motion-controlled chainsaw in the pursuit of the yayo empire of their dreams. But look, your grandma is lovely. Yes, she is. But where are the GTA clones for kids?
You look like a cop.
Well, I'm not. See?
Now, this video has already been going on for a while, and the children watching at home need to start getting ready for bed. So I want to point out that when the GTA clones started going away, it wasn't just the edgy, murderous, bloodlusting adult audience that suffered. A bunch of really great GTA clones made for kids went away too. In a lot of ways, that sucks even more, because kids aren't even allowed to play the actual GTA games. I mean, of course they do, because if you've ever played online in any video game for grown-ups, you've probably been berated by an angry 4th grader, but hey, maybe kids are putting their dirty little peanut butter fingers all over everything in GTA Online because they don't have a GTA clone where they can wreak havoc on their own. And that's exactly why we need another Lego City Undercover.
This city is in the grip of a crime wave.
Lego City Undercover is an open world game where you beat people up, shoot stuff, steal cars, and go on high-speed chases, but you do it all as a police officer in a slapstick and comical family game rated E for everyone. That game was ported to nearly every platform, got a 3DS spin-off, and an entire complimentary line of actual Lego City playsets to build in real life, but nobody is making a new Lego City game. We still get Lego games all the time, of course. Recently, we even got Lego Horizon, which is a Lego game based on a different open world franchise, but we don't have a new Lego City Undercover game. And for the 3rd or 4th time in this video, that sucks, because Lego City added some unique twists to the GTA formula. Now, aside from destruction being normal and acceptable in Lego games, things just break apart, Lego City worked because you played as a silly, harebrained but well-meaning cop who was generally unapologetic when he had to commandeer a citizen's vehicle and smash it into a wall. He also had an unlockable costume wheel that allowed you to play as different job types and use their skill set with it, which was an absolute blast. And just like actual GTA, it frequently referenced a bunch of movies and pop culture nonsense, all set in a really fun and vibrant open world that was packed with things to do and collect. It's a genuine shame that this game didn't get more installments past the ambitious but slimmed down semi-sequel that came to 3DS 11 years ago. Since then, we've had tons of other Lego games, of course, like Lego Fortnite, which is massive in scale, and even got its own GTA-inspired mode recently called Brick Life, complete with a GTA 6 parody promotional image. In fact, Brick Life is the closest thing to a successor to a Lego City game we've seen yet. You ride vehicles around an open world, work jobs, buy stuff, hang out with friends. It's pretty GTA-ish, but it's definitely not a mission-based story-driven game like Lego City was. Meanwhile, they still make Lego City toy sets in real life, so the brand still exists in some form, but a new game hasn't been announced yet, and I'd be shocked if it ever will, even though Lego has been going for decades. Oh hey, speaking of a family-friendly thing that has been going on for decades and also got its own GTA-inspired clone, The Simpsons. Now on its 373rd season, give or take, The Simpsons is no stranger to video game adaptations, spin-offs, and tie-ins. Nearly 30 Simpsons video games have been made since it originally became a hit primetime Fox show in 1989. We got entire games based on Itchy and Scratchy and Krusty the Clown and Homer's obsession with bowling and a nightmare Bart had once, and some of them are good and a bunch of them suck, but the best one, well, besides the classic arcade beat-em-up that deserves to be ported to modern consoles, that one's awesome, is the open-world Springfield GTA clone known as The Simpsons Hit Run.
Okay, that's a lot, dude.
Not only is The Simpsons Hit Run one of the best GTA clones out there, it's also one of the best licensed games, period. The T for Teen ESRB rating allowed this GTA clone to nestle perfectly between Lego City's E for Everyone and GTA's M for Mature, meaning Homer could say things like dumbass while running around and jacking cars in his underwear.
Learn the drugs, dumbass.
When Hit and Run launched in 2003, the actual Simpsons TV show had already dipped in quality significantly, but there being a ton of Simpsons nostalgia in the fandom and the game itself being packed with fantastic Easter eggs and classic Simpsons characters and jokes made it an instant hit with Simpsons fans.
I gotta get the new Bone Storm or I'll be as uncool as Millhouse. I'm standing right here, Bart.
Driving around Springfield, doing all sorts of silly nonsense, and quite literally crashing into Homer's friends, neighbors, and enemies was and still an absolute blast. Over 20 years later, it's crazy how well the low poly art style scales and how fun and funny the game still is today. In fact, there's an incredibly popular Simpsons Hit and Run speedrunning community out there that regularly competes to one-up each other and share tips and shortcuts, and it's really cool to see. People absolutely love this game, and we're somehow still getting new episodes of The Simpsons every week, so clearly there's still a market for a game like this, which makes it all the more frustrating that it never got a sequel.
This must be worth a fortune!
In fact, just recently, the lead designer of Hit and Run, Joe McGinn, left a comment on a Hit and Run speedrun video saying that Gracie Films offered our publisher a deal to make 3 sequels with all Simpsons rights and voice actors for the preferred price of $0. We wouldn't have to pay for anything for the Simpsons license, in other words. However, some crazy person at the publisher of Vivendi Games, we've never found out who, said no. Well, that sucks. The Simpsons is still on the air, but the video game tie-ins are few and far between these days, so I don't exactly expect this game to make a comeback, but Hit and Run still rules, so maybe if we're all loud enough, we'll get a remake or a remaster. Until then, go play the original. Now, anyway, I didn't write a clever transition for this next part, so...
Grown man making crank calls. Let's see how safe you feel when I trace your call.
Hey, remember Watch Dogs? Well, in 2014, the global but mostly very French video game publisher Ubisoft released the first entry in an exciting new franchise of GTA clones attempting to do their own distinct thing. Watch Dogs was an open-world action-adventure game that let you do most of the stuff that you could do in Grand Theft Auto, but with a very specific twist. You had a phone that could mess with stuff.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, that's obviously a very dumb way of describing the smartphone interactivity in Watch Dogs, but long story short, your phone could hack into streetlights, traffic barriers, cars, or other people's phones, and lots of other various nonsense in the world, so you could create distractions, sneak into places, and steal top-secret hard drives and stuff. The story of Watch Dogs franchise is an interesting and controversial one, as it's one of the clearest examples at the time of a retail version of a video game being sold to consumers looking and feeling significantly different than the one that we were originally pitched when the game was first revealed, leading to a ton of memes about how the E3 demo of a game and the final version of a game frequently saw a sizable dip in quality and functionality. Nevertheless, while the version of Watch Dogs that players bought in 2014 seemed to be a step down from the one they were first pitched in 2012, there was still a lot to love about the first Watch Dogs game at the time. Ubisoft had been releasing Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Just Dance games at a pretty rapid, damn near annual clip, so those were all known quantities, and they'd also just finished an absolutely legendary run of Nintendo Wii and Nintendo DS garbage tier shovelware games, like Imagine Babies, which was spelled with a Z, Pets, Dogs Family, which was spelled with 2 Z's, and Horses 3D, which could have had 2 Z's but instead had no Z's. So seeing them not only kick off a brand new IP but also spell the word dogs correctly, pretty exciting time to be alive. You just had to be there. Less exciting was the actual playable character in Watch Dogs, a gruff guy named Alden Porch or Almond Peach, Anglin Pitts or something. Who cares? It doesn't matter. He looked like a mix between a neighborhood watch sign and like a guy who shouldn't be within 500 feet of a school. Despite the main character being terrible, some general technical issues, and the overall experience being way less cool than the one we were initially sold on, Watch Dogs was a rock-solid game that showed potential to become a new GTA clone franchise. And that's exactly what happened 2 years later in 2016 with Watch Dogs 2, a game that ditched the drab and dreary streets of Chicago for the vibrant and sunny city of San Francisco, just as actual tech bros were ransacking the place for profits in real life. Previous Watch Dogs star and talking wet blanket Alvin Piss, I think is his name. I can't remember his name. He went back to the kennel in favor of a new hero, Marcus Holloway, and his overly excited and way overdressed hacker crew of ragtag buddies, which was almost certainly Ubisoft overcompensating for the first game's protagonist being a joy vacuum. Just like Assassin's Creed 2, Watch Dogs 2 improved nearly everything from the first game, introduced a ton of new features and mechanics, and dropped it all into a much more fun setting that culminated in what was undeniably a better game overall. Watch Dogs 2 went on to sell 10 million copies, and a brand new Ubisoft franchise was here to stay forever because they had a winning formula that absolutely didn't need to be messed with at all. So why fix something that isn't broken to begin with? Because you can just keep improving on that with new sequels forever, right? Just keep making good new Watch Dogs games forever and ever, because why would you do anything else? Right, Ubisoft? Right?
Shut your stupid ass up!
Watch Dogs Legion released in 2020 and asked the question, what's the only thing more boring than a Watch Dogs game with a totally unmemorable, bland, and miserable protagonist you don't care about? You know, like Arvin Peeps or whatever his name was. How about an infinite number of protagonists who are somehow more forgettable than that, and they all just keep dying? So you just have to cycle through them until you decide to uninstall the game and just hope the next one's better, and then we just never get the next one. Ubisoft, what did you do? Watch Dogs Legions took players to London and let them do the usual Watch Dogs style hacking and fuckery to the local authorities, known as bobbies and coppers over there, because it's a silly and unserious place. But instead of giving you a cool original character to play as, like nearly every modern GTA game is known for, and what Watch Dogs 2 was known for, they let you hack everybody, which means you spent a bunch of time playing as sluggish old ladies, landlords, beekeepers, and a blockchain specialist. A cast about as alluring as an unseasoned plate of fish and chips that has been left outside of a pub on a rainy day. A delicacy in the UK. Shots fired. This concept, while sort of novel on paper, just fundamentally did not work, and was not only deeply uninteresting, but also really tedious, especially since some characters could permanently die, leading to some extremely repetitive scenarios where you'd have to dig through your deck of characters and drag them out through a mission again. The city itself was flashy and well built, and the shooting, driving, and hacking all worked well enough, but without a great main character and supporting narrative to back it up, there just wasn't much to connect with. Watch Dogs Legion wasn't a bad game by any means, but it wasn't a great or even memorable one either. And what's worse is that it seems its strongest lasting power was to take the entire franchise down with it, seemingly for good. As of right now, Watch Dogs 4 has not been confirmed or even rumored to be happening at Ubisoft. It seems the series just quietly went away like nearly every other GTA clone. Ubisoft is kind of unpredictable with their franchises though. For every series like Just Dance or Assassin's Creed, they frequently get sequels and sequels. There are half a dozen other series that go ages without a sequel, like Splinter Cell, Beyond Good and Evil, and now Watch Dogs. Ubisoft works in mysterious ways, and if they manage to revitalize the Watch Dogs series and get it back on track someday, I'm sure millions of GTA fans will welcome it.
Wake the f*** up, samurai.
Hey, while we're talking about the highs, lows, and middles of a bunch of GTA clone franchises that are mostly no longer with us anymore, it's worth reiterating that we're practically buried in other third-person open-world games right now, so it's not really like a total loss. The thing is, for the most part, open-world games these days tend to either take place in some fantasy version of the distant future or some fantasy version of the distant past. Think of the two extremes, like Cyberpunk 2077 and Elden Ring. A future that probably won't happen, and a past that definitely didn't happen, but fantastic open world games either way. Anyway, let's speedrun some games. Let's start with Cyberpunk 2077, a game that lets you do GTA-esque activities like stealing cars, shooting guns, and with the addition of the massive 2.0 update, actually deal with a somewhat competent police force that ramps up to respond to your destructive crime sprees, instead of just materializing out of thin air and standing there like they did when the game first launched in 2020. It's got a lot of the ingredients of a GTA game, but it all exists under the trappings of a role-playing game, which obviously isn't surprising considering Cyberpunk's roots as a tabletop RPG. It can definitely feel GTA-ish on occasion, just in first person, unless of course you use an unofficial third-person mod, but it's ultimately more about building out your character through branching narrative paths and upgrades. You know, like an RPG. So yeah, Cyberpunk is close, but no cigar. Then there's Spider-Man 2, a third-person open-world game set in a major modern metropolitan city that is full of cars, civilians, criminals, and cops, although nobody in their right mind would call it a GTA clone. Not just because every GTA game is about being a criminal and Spider-Man exists specifically to stop criminals, but because the interactivity in Spider-Man's world is specifically different than a GTA game, even though it takes place in New York City, the place that inspired Liberty City. You spend most of your Spider time zipping around through the air, scaling buildings, and beating up mobs of low-level bad guys and supervillains, but you can't just hop in any vehicle on the street and take it for a destructive joyride because that would be stealing, plus other crimes that Spider-Man hates. And also, why would a guy who can practically fly get in a motor vehicle and get stuck in midtown rush hour traffic? Of course, that hasn't stopped him from trying numerous times before in a bunch of children's toys, which all make him look varying degrees of totally ridiculous. So yeah, obviously the Insomniac Spider-Man games are not GTA clones, although the part in Spider-Man 2 where you destroy a bunch of stuff as Venom sort of feels like kinda close. Hey, they should let Venom drive a car. Oh god damn it, they did that too? There's Ghost of Tsushima, an open-world game set in feudal Japan, not a GTA clone. Days Gone, an open-world game that brings in huge zombie mobs and survival horror elements to a post-apocalyptic version of a modern Oregon, where you can drive a motorcycle, not a GTA clone. The Witcher 3, which is about as high fantasy, non-modern, and non-realistic as games get, not a GTA clone. You could maybe make an argument for Fortnite, a massive open-world map with sprawling city structures, vehicles to commandeer, and people to shoot at, but calling it a GTA clone would feel like a huge stretch, so no there. Then of course there's Rockstar's own Red Dead Redemption 2, which takes the massively detailed and infinitely interactive open world ideology of a modern GTA game and drops it in the old-timey cowboy days of 1899, where you are infinitely more likely to die of dysentery than falling off a skyscraper. They didn't even have those then, you idiot. Recently, we even got Star Wars Outlaws, an open world game about a gang-ridden criminal underworld starring a thief who repeatedly pisses off local authorities, escalating their retaliation along the way. But of course, the inherently sci-fi fantasy setting of Star Wars and lack of stealable vehicles and criminal interactions with pedestrians means this game is more of a straightforward open world game, even if it definitely borrows some GTA ideas. Same goes for The Saboteur, a 2009 open world game set in World War II that takes a little bit of GTA, mixes it with some Assassin's Creed, and lets it all loose against Nazis, a group of people we all agreed were bad back then. Then there's of course Assassin's Creed itself, open world, piss off local authorities, cause a little mayhem, not a GTA clone. There's the Mafia franchise, which has all the trappings of a GTA clone, but is built around much more linear chapter-based stories, so GTA clone-ish? So yes, we have tons of open world games to choose from these days, and some of them even give us that GTA feeling for a few moments, but recently next to none of them are truly trying to replicate or evolve the GTA formula, setting, or gameplay. So hey, let's get optimistic and talk about the GTA clones that are actually in development right now and will hopefully be here soon.
What's your name?
Jason Duval.
I seen you here before.
You might have.
All right, let's be honest. Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to make life very difficult for GTA clones for the foreseeable future. Not only is it almost certainly going to deliver an open world crime simulation game on a scale and budget like we've never seen before, it's also almost certainly going to be paired with GTA Online, which will consume billions of dollars and hours for the next 10 to 15 years until Grand Theft Auto 7 does it all over again. Smaller studios simply won't be able to compete, at least in terms of scope, but that's okay because a GTA clone doesn't have to legally be as big as a GTA game to be fun and successful. Let's start with Mafia: The Old Country, the upcoming prequel to the first Mafia game that will take players to Sicily in the early 1900s to do crime and eat pasta on that funny little island that Italy is always trying to kick. We don't know a ton about it just yet outside of the gorgeous teaser trailer, but it's made from Hangar 13, a studio that made 3 other solid Mafia games, and it's out in the summer of 2025, although in Mafia all the cars have silly bicycle tires and nobody has invented cell phones yet. Also arriving in 2025 is The Precinct, an open-world action game that takes place in a fictitious modern city and has you playing as a cop, taking down criminals all over town. The top-down camera gives it a bit of that classic GTA aesthetic, and it's definitely shaping up nicely already. And yeah, being a cop isn't ever as fun as being a robber, but hey, I'll take it. Next up is Gangstar New York, the upcoming sequel to the long-running mobile GTA clone franchise. Now, before Rockstar and then Netflix for some reason put real classic GTA games on your phone, Gameloft, a studio known for making shameless clones of popular game franchises, created a series called Gangstar, a very shameless GTA clone. Now, the Gangstar games were never fantastic or anything, but they did their own thing well enough to get people some GTA on the go. However, the next Gangstar game, Gangstar New York, is not only looking like the biggest and most detailed game in the series yet, it's also coming to Steam, so you can play it on a screen that's bigger than your phone. It's being made by a studio that has its roots in mobile game development, so I'm tempering my expectations a bit and definitely expecting it to be riddled with icky, yucky, disgusting microtransactions, but it's still cool to see a GTA clone franchise persist and get new games years later, especially after I spent most of this video talking about how many GTA clones have died over the years. And then there's Liquid Swords' next game, an upcoming GTA clone that we know the least about, but feels like the most exciting to me. Liquid Swords is the new studio from the founder of Avalanche Studios, who are most known for the Just Cause franchise. Their next game is said to be a narrative-driven, open-world, hard-boiled, AAA revenge story built and developed in Unreal Engine 5. We've only seen a handful of screenshots so far, but they are gorgeous and grimy and incredibly detailed and give me very strong GTA 4 vibes. This will be a big-budget AAA GTA clone from a team of people with a great pedigree, and I cannot wait to see it in action and get my hands on it. Now, this one feels the furthest away, so it might even be a post-GTA 6 game, but either way, very exciting stuff. So there you have it, the life, death, and hopeful future of GTA games that aren't actually GTA games. Now, I had a ton of fun researching and writing this, and it got me to jump back into a bunch of old GTA clones that I hadn't played in years, which was awesome. So thank you for watching and hanging out while we celebrated this genre, I guess. And hey, I almost certainly forgot a few games along the way, so please go easy on me in the comments. Speaking of which, let me know what your favorite GTA clone is, which franchise you wish would make a comeback, and which GTA clones you're excited for in the future while we wait for the actual next GTA game to finally get here. Until then, and for all things video games, and especially GTA, keep watching IGN.